Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. This is going to be part 2 of our series that focuses on how to save money while playing or collecting Warhammer. This part is going to be focused on how to get the most for your models when you are selling them. Now, part 1 is already up on the channel. That part focused more on how to find the best deals for yourself when you are buying them. And as I said, this part is going to be now the inverse of that and how to make the most money for yourself, whether you're selling things that you've actually painted or you're just clearing out the hobby backlog or whatever. So to start off with, kind of tying into the other video, my first recommendation is do not limit yourself to one platform or one place to list your stuff. In order to reach the most people, you're going to want to list it and show it off in as many places as possible. So again, as I said in the other video, some places to consider is the actual Facebook Marketplace. You've got any yard sale site for your area or country. For me, it would be Kijiji. And then you also have all of the Warhammer specific buy sell groups on Facebook. And I'll have those popping up right now, some of the different ones to check out. There's usually like a region specific one for you, and then there's going to be like the bigger general ones. And by listing it in all those places, you're going to get the most people interested in your stuff. Um, so now moving on from that, some things you can do to get the most money for your stuff. One thing is if you're selling your own models, you want to present them in the best way possible, right? So if you like, it doesn't matter, you don't need a good camera, but like there's things you can do to take the best picture, right? And there is tons of different videos showing off how to do that effectively, and how to take a nice quality picture. You want a good quality picture showing off really what you've got, and in its best state. If it's something that has if it's something that you've already built, um, not to insult anybody, but like if the paint job is like really thick, really old, really crappy, maybe consider stripping that off. You could also, if it's, maybe just not the best, but also it's not too thick, you could, if it was like an army or even if it's just one model, you could just give it a nice coat of primer just to, clean it up, make it so you're effectively like eliminating a step for somebody else that's going to be painting over it anyway. um, that's something that can make it look a lot nicer that way. Um, so, like I said, so make your model look as nice as you can. If it's like if it's stuff that's broken, like fix it. I don't know how many times I've seen like people are listing things that it's just like all the parts are there, but they're just like broken. Like just put it together and make it look nice and presentable. Like because when a lot of people when they see something that's broken, they just immediately pass. They just assume that it's too broken and it's going to be missing parts or something. Like, put it together, make it look nice. Unless it is, of course, like something that's new on sprue. Like people will usually pay more for things that are new on sprue. So that's just like general stuff for selling your own things. Another good thing to keep in mind is that people, a lot of times you can get more money if you are willing to sell individually. Now, it's a lot more work for you because it'll mean more trips to the post office, more time spent packaging it, and a lot of people just don't want to do that. But if you're willing to do that, you will get more money. Like, if people are going to buy your whole army or your whole lot, they're going to expect to pay less because they're buying everything all at once. Whereas if you're, like I said, if you're willing to take the time and you might have to wait a long time to find somebody that's willing to buy each individual thing, if you're willing to part everything out, list it all individually, you will make more money in the long run because it is that much more work. So again, that's just general selling advice for your own things. Now, this is getting into more how to actually buy and sell things for the purpose of making money without being a fucking dirtbag like some resellers that you see. So, things to look at. Um, Basically, like what I just told you not to do, you can look at people doing that. So, comb all those sites, find big lots. Don't be afraid of things that are poorly painted, not put together, broken, whatever. Look at what there is, do the math in your head. And so, like I said in the other video too, like it is a shit thing to do to just buy somebody's army and then turn around and resell it for 20% more or something. That is a shit thing to do. Don't do that, please. Like, that's just, it doesn't look good. And I know there's people that, like, that's their profession, and that's kind of a different story. So if you buy somebody's army, if you're buying someone's stuff for the purpose of reselling it, some things you can do to do it, in my opinion, like the decent way, would be to, so like I said, a lot of people don't want to part it out. If you've bought the lot, you've kind of done them a favor right off the bat by taking it all off their hands for them for a reasonable price. If you don't want to do anything, but you want to make a little bit of money, do what I said, part it all out, sell it all individually. It'll take you a long time, but you'll probably make a little bit of money. And because it's so much extra work and time and whatever, like, it's, you don't need to feel bad about it because you're putting in that work to make that extra little bit of money. If it's something where it's, not the best painted, not the best whatever, like I said, strip the paint off it or prime it. Or if you are a decent painter, you could consider taking the time to paint the whole army and put everything together, and you will be able to get more value that way if your painting is something that will bring value to the army. A good example of that is, I'd said in the past, I bought a super huge Tyranid army, or I actually traded for a huge Tyranid army. I ended up selling off half of it right away. The other half I kept for myself. It was my own army. I put lots of time and effort into painting it all, building it all, putting it all back together. And then eventually, when I ended up selling that army, technically I did make a profit, but like, for the amount of hours and effort put in, it's like next to nothing, right? But basically, at the end of the day, that army cost me nothing and I made slightly more. So then if you do that over the years, you will eventually accumulate more than you started with, right? Like, if you start with a small army, you paint it all up nicely, you put it all together, you sell it for slightly more, then you buy a slightly bigger army, and then it just snowballs over time. Um, so another thing that you can look at doing as far as reselling is things like the big box sets that GW puts out that are in and of themselves a good savings and a good deal right off the bat. There's not that many these days. The last good one was probably like Indomitus. Do not be that guy that buys the next whatever Indominus box and just resells that shit on eBay for $100 more. That's a scumbag thing to do. Don't do that, please. What you can do, and you can feel good about, is you can buy that box. You can take the time to split it all up. And I know, because I bought that box, a lot of the units were like, they're all spread out across the sprues. It takes a lot of work to go and organize it all, separate out each individual model or each individual unit, and have them all organized nicely in bags. And you can sell the individual units for a reasonable price that will still make you a little bit of profit. Again, I'm not talking about a huge amount of profit, but like $100 in Warhammer can go a long way, right? Like, if you're somebody that's on a budget, you don't have a ton of extra money, maybe like your main Warhammer thing for the year is like your Christmas and your birthday kind of thing. Well, if you buy an Indominus box and you make $100 off it, there's $100 that you can go and buy, two new model kits or whatever, or a couple used things, or a whole bunch of paints or whatever. So what you do is, to again not be a scumbag, you sit there and you figure it out and you do the math. So I'm going to just keep using Indominus as an example. So say that box comes with 5 characters, right? And they're brand new, they're on the sprue. You can go on the GW website. So for me in Canada, a Space Marine character is going to be between $40 and $50 brand new. That's what I have here. These are all brand new Space Marine characters. You know that when they are released individually, they'll be worth $40 or $50 each. You got them at a big discount by buying the Indomitus box. You sell each one of those characters for $20, $25, maybe even $30 if you want to. So you're still selling them for cheaper than they will be when GW sells them separately. But you will end, if you do that for the whole box, you can sell each thing at a fair price, at a cheap price to whoever wants it. But also you add it up throughout the whole box, you'll end up making a little bit of money. And you don't have to feel bad about it, because a lot of people looked at the Indominus box and they're like, ooh, I really like that new captain, but I don't give a shit about any of the other stuff. Or they're like, ooh, I just want to buy more of the Necron Warriors or more of the Eradicators. And so again, you are selling it to them at a great discount. You're selling it to them for, 30, 40% off, whatever, of a brand new model kit that they can't get anywhere else, and they don't have to go through the trouble themselves of buying a whole box of stuff that they don't want just to get that one thing. So, as I said, like I think I did that with Indominus for the one extra box that I bought. I parted it all out. I sold all the things individually, and I think when all was said and done, because then all the trips to the store, all the packaging, and all the stuff, I think I made somewhere around $100 off that box by selling it all individually and still again selling everything at a good discount. So it takes a lot of work, but that's something you can do to make some extra money. Um, and a final thing that I know that I've done before and that you can do is not necessarily like when you think of commission painting, right? You think of somebody that's like a professional, amazing painter, like freaking Siege Studios or something. Not most of us aren't like that. You don't have to be like that. But what you can do is you can volunteer your time to your friends or people at the store or whatever in exchange for a smaller, reasonable amount of money. And that doesn't even have to be painting. A lot of people hate building, or a lot of people hate building, hate building vehicles, or they hate building a horde, or they hate making scratch building terrain. All these things you can volunteer your time to make some extra hobby money if it's something that you don't mind doing. For example, I know at one point or another, my friends have been like, "Hey, man, I don't want to build this. I don't want to build this um, squad of guys. Like, will you build it for $15 or $20?" And like, yeah, that's like, it probably took me, 2 hours or something. So like, I worked for almost nothing. But it's something I don't mind doing, and it's just an extra little bit of money. Or my friend who just bought my Imperial Knights army, he's now commissioned me to paint some more Imperial Knights. I'm not a professional painter. I think I'm like halfway decent, but he wants his next knights that he's buying to match the ones that he just got off me. He likes the paint scheme, so he's paying me to paint them, and I'm not charging him anything crazy. I'm charging him like $80 for a big knight that's going to take me quite a few hours to paint, right? Like stuff like that you can do for people to make extra money. If you're resourceful, if you put your mind to it, there are many, many ways you can do this hobby and not do it at a loss, right? You don't have to go to a GW store and drop $3,000 and then in a couple years you don't like that army anymore and then you sell it for half of what you paid for it, right? Like if you just keep doing that, you are just draining money forever into this hobby. It does not have to be like that. So, as to conclude, this is part 2 of a 3-part series I'm going to do about how to save money playing Warhammer. The first part, buy cheap, look at used models, especially ones that are broken or poorly painted. Now we're looking at when you are selling your own stuff and as well as some extra ways to make some extra money towards the hobby. Even if you do these two things, you're probably pretty close to breaking even. Um, but yeah, that I think it was a little bit messy, a little bit all over the place. Life is pretty fucking hectic right now. I'm just doing this off the top of my head. Hopefully that was clear, and hopefully some of these things are helpful for you guys. As I said, stay tuned for the third part. Hopefully that'll be out sometime next week. Should be another Kit Bash showcase somewhere between here and there. Um, if you want to see any cool new stuff that I'm working on, I have a small orc army coming down the pipe, and I just am starting on the war boss for that. Consider checking out my Patreon. It's the best way to support the channel and support what I do. Believe it or not, I don't have a lot of extra money either, even though I'm here making tips on how to how to save money with Warhammer. But either way, thanks for watching. See you guys next time. Bye.